Welcome back to our comprehensive training series on conducting a world-class systematic literature review. I'm your host, Dr. Obi Sasere, and this is part 2, the practical guide to SLR execution. Now, it's time to transform that knowledge into a rigorous, reproducible research paper. Over the next few minutes, I will walk you through the entire execution phase, including the critical steps that minimize bias and ensure the credibility of your findings. We'll break down the complete 7-step SLR process, from developing a transparent protocol using frameworks like PICO and SPIDER, to mastering a comprehensive search strategy. Crucially, you learn about essential quality appraisal tools like MMAT and ROB2, and how to effectively conduct data extraction. Finally, we will demystify the 4 major data synthesis methods, including meta-analysis, narrative synthesis, thematic, and realist synthesis. The video also shows you how to structure your final paper using the rigorous PRISMA Guidelines. Are you ready to master the mechanics of your systematic literature review? Let's dive in and elevate your research to the highest standard of academic excellence.
Once again, I want to welcome everyone to this evening call. We are about 21 now, and we can kickstart the class. Please let me know if I am audible at your end, so that it will not be as if I'm speaking to myself alone. Please, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Audible.
All right, thank you so much. I welcome everyone to this evening call, and I wish everyone a nice time. Quickly before we start, please, are there issues of concerns that we need to address? If there is any issue of concern, can we just raise that in and have it resolved within 5 minutes? Today is the beginning of the 5th week out of the 6 weeks that we have for this call. Please, are there issues of concern that we need to resolve? Are there issues of concern that we need to resolve? All right. If there is none, I assume we can continue with the class. Just a moment. So far, so good. We have been able to cover various aspects of an article. I mean a typical article. And we've been able to cover areas that are very essential. So before we round up on different parts of articles, we deem it necessary to also talk about systematic literature review. In one of the previous classes, we talked about conceptual articles, and we also deem it fit to discuss systematic literature review for the sake of those who intended to write systematic literature review. But we realized that almost everybody is interested, so we decided to make it open, to allow everybody to have access. And we started the class on Saturday. We've been able to look at the steps that are involved in writing systematic literature review, but we're only able to cover 2 out of 7 in the last class. In today's class, we hope to cover the rest of those steps and what are involved in those steps. So without wasting time, we will go to step 3. But before we move to that place, let's quickly refresh our mind. Systematic review is a type of study that aggregates a lot of articles, studies, with a view to present a comprehensive coverage of the literature. And it can be done for different purposes. And we look at the steps that are involved in conducting systematic literature review. And we talked about the first one, the protocol and registration, comprehensive search, title or abstract screening, full text review, hand searching, and gray literature search, data extraction, and quality assessment, as well as synthesis and reports. So these are the 7 steps that are involved in writing systematic literature review. We have been able to cover what protocol development, what is all about. That is, a protocol is the process. That is, it's like the blueprint. If you can use another word for protocol, it's the blueprint. How do you want to go about it? What is how do we intend to go about it? So that is what so protocol involves the statement of background and rationale for the study, research question that you might want to use, the target journal where you want to draw your data from, and the databases where you want to search, the date range, the inclusion and exclusion criteria, quality appraisal tools, synthesis, type that you might want to use, and what are the roles of the team members, and of course the timeline that you want to work with, and the milestone. We talk about PICO and we talk about SPIDER, how they guide the development of our research question, and we saw different discipline research questions as far as SLR is concerned, systematic literature review. But this evening we would start from step 3. But before we go into step 3, the last thing we discussed was that there is a need for us to identify databases where we want to search for studies that will be included in our SLR. This is very important, and it is important to understand that the source from which you draw your data matters a lot. The editors will look at it. Both the editors and the reviewer, they want to know where are you drawing your data from, because every feed has a set of databases where knowledge in that feed reside. So if you are writing systematic literature review in health and clinical science, and you did not mention that you draw data from PubMed, Medline, or CINAHL, or Concrete Library, then where would your evidence be? So the fact that you did not draw your data, your articles, from the right source where knowledge that are considered the cutting edge, outstanding, remarkable, novel reside, then we can't regard whatever finding you say you have, because you are not drawing from where the knowledge reside. So basically, from what you have on the screen right now, we can see that virtually all fields have databases where you can do your search. So in education, you can see you have ERIC, Psych Info, Scopus, Web of Science. In engineering, IEEE, Explore, Copendex, Scopus, and all that. Business, you see the way it applies. So it is important for us to have this at the back of our mind, that when you want to do systematic literature review, the source from which you are drawing your data from is very, very important. So let's take note of that. That's number 1. Then let's move to the next one, step. Okay, when you are searching, we also talk about the search strategy, how you need, the need for you to combine different keywords to get the type of result you have. You may have to use Boolean operator such as and, or not. We gave example that day. Mesh is the medical subject headline. You can as well make use of those keywords. In English language, we call them registered words. So the registered word in medical science is referred to as medical subject headings. And of course, in your field, you know those keywords that are registered keyword if you're searching for something. That does not mean that you cannot use synonyms or related words. If you use a term, for example, in medical science, if you say hypertension, if you don't get the result you want, you can use high blood pressure. So that will give you related, it might give you result different from what you search, or what you get when you search the other keyword. So that way, it's also applicable in different fields. The other day, I mentioned that in South Africa, if somebody wants to search for something that has to do with teacher, what they use is educator. And educator is only, it's somehow restricted, kind of, if I can use that word. It's like their registered word, adopted word for teacher. But all over the world, teacher is teacher. So if you go to a database and you punch in educator, you are likely to have lesser amount of information, because around the world, the registered word is teacher. So when you key in teacher as a keyword, you have a lot of information. So, and we talk about you restricting the dates, the number of years you are working. The number of, there should be a window of year that you want to research. Maybe 2020 or 2000, year 2000 till year 2025 or 2020. That is the window we talk about. You will have to specify that. So we move to the next step, which is step 3, title and abstract screening. Assuming you combine 2 or 3 databases where you crawl your information from, where you do your identification, you are likely to have large number of articles, because the keyword you use may crawl as many as possible articles. Now, when this happens, the first thing to do is for you to begin to screen the articles one after the other. And this involves a 2-phase screening process. The first one is the screening of the title and the abstract. That is, you look at the abstract and you look at the title and the abstract. Do they really represent what you want to, the study you want to carry out? Remember, the protocol will be your guide. You have developed the protocol. So the protocol is your guide. There you have stated your research question and the things that you want to involve. That is, what type of study do you want? What type of study do you, we call it inclusion and exclusion criteria. Your criteria is set. The range of year is set. The fact that you want it to be studies that are carried out in English language or published in English language. Everything is, is already planned out even before you start. So at this level, you have already internalized those things that you are looking for. So now, in doing this, it is a rapid way of assessing those studies that you have downloaded. So you can do this manually and you can do this automatically. If you are doing it manually, it simply means that just like you will open every document on your system, if you want to go the analog way, you will have downloaded those articles into one folder, and now you begin to open them one after the other to see if they are related to your study based on their title and the content of the abstract. So at this level, you may still choose to include some studies, even though if you are not so sure, but they are in between. Maybe they are not, they are not, they don't align 100%. At the same time, they are not out of scope of your study. You may still allow them for now. That is talking about broad inclusion for now. All right. But when studies are not, when they are entirely irrelevant at that level, at this level of screening, take them out. And another way of doing this, if you don't want to do it manually, there are two ways. Is you can make use of what is it called now? Reference managers. Some reference managers have been developed to a point whereby you can import your study into them, and when you install your study into them, you will see the title, you will see the abstract. So you can read the title and the abstract. If you don't want to go the laptop way, I mean using your Window Explorer to do it, you can import to some reference managers, such as, I'm trying to remember the name of this one now, that by Elsevier. There are a number of them. We have EndNote, we have Zotero, we have what again? This popular one, people use it a lot. So, but beyond that, that type of reference manager, they may not give us the results we want down the line, but at this basic level of screening, they should be able to give us the results we need, because you can easily read the title and the abstract for you to have results. What is the name of this Scopus Elsevier stuff? Just a minute. I just want to see if I can flash it. Mendeley, yeah, Mendeley reference manager, Mendeley. Okay, it is free. You can download it, though it has paid version, but it is free. And when you download it, Mendeley, let me just, okay, reference manager. When you download it, you install it. It's an application that is both text-based and online-based. And let me see if I can, I'm sure some of us we know it, and we can make use of it without much ado without much issue about that. We can find out how it works. Actually, it's just by the way. I don't want us to waste much time on that. It will require me to go and start opening and switching between windows. I don't want to do that because we have a lot to do this evening. So that is that about that. So when you want to screen, the first phase is the title and the abstract. With those two, you can get to know whether a study is relevant or not to what you want to do. The second phase of screening, still in stage 3, is the full text screening. The moment you identify studies that are related, out of maybe 1,500, you have screened out about, let's say, 1,450. Now you are left with 50 articles. Those 50 articles, you would have to screen. You have to screen them fully. You have to read them fully, because it is based on them you are going to perform your quality check. That is what is called quality check. It is based on them you perform your quality check. I want to bring out a study now so that we can easily see what I'm talking about real life as we are discussing. Okay, let me open this. All right, just a moment. So now Let's look at this study on the screen. This is PRISMA flow diagram. This is called PRISMA flow diagram. The moment you start screening, you should start recording how many studies do you have in all. Now you have in this place, it's the first box. Okay, let me just put it this way. There are about four different levels. The first one is the identification level. The second level is the screening level. The third level is the eligibility level. And the third one is the included level. So what do you do at each stage? Remember, what we are talking about now is screening. Screening happen after you have identified those studies. So identification stages is comprised of all the studies that were crawled. As you can see on the screen, these authors aggregated 54,985 articles, and they also found additional records that were identified through other sources. Remember, the other time we talked about when you want to start searching, you can search databases that are dedicated to your area of specialization, and you can as well go and search gray sources. That is, gray materials are materials that are not peer reviewed, like government gazette, government policy. So like maybe record from the World Bank or any organization that serve as an authority in your field. So whatever report they come with or they come up with and is relevant to your study, you want to use it in the study, then they are regarded as other sources or gray literatures because they were not peer reviewed like articles. You can see that on the right side. So everything put together now becomes 40,301. Now this is after duplicate has been removed. As a matter of fact, the way people do draw this thing, sometimes there could be a little bit of differences. What I expect this person to do now is to add the first and the second box together and have the total number before the person start talking about duplicates. So ideally, we should have an addition of box 1 and box 2 records before the duplicate is identified, is displayed. So I expect this person now to connect the two together, put the total, then in the third box we should now have duplicates removed, meaning that duplicate simply means that, I shouldn't use let me check something. I think it would be ideal we talk about ideal situation rather than using a study that does not give us what we want exactly. Just a minute. So ideally we should have studies that give us exactly what we need. All right, let's look at this study. For example, we are talking about screening now. So all right, now look at what we have on the screen. In this study, it is expected that in your study, this is our study, that you should identify, if you are using 3-4 databases, identify those databases. When you identify the databases, if you have reference from other sources, you can see that on the right side of this box, there is nothing like, we don't have data from other sources. It simply means that we didn't use gray literature. We didn't do snowball searching of extra articles. Snowball searching of extra article is when you identify a study that is almost a replica of what you want to do. Even if it's not a replica, but it's very relevant, highly relevant, because the relevance of those articles will vary. If you see the ones that are highly relevant to the scope of your work, what you are expected to do is to go and check the references of that article. Because from there, you are likely to see articles that will be related to the study, even though you could not find them in the database when you were searching. That's what I'm trying to say. So ideally, when you are reporting your PRISMA flow. This is how the PRISMA flow looks like. Let me just make it small, okay, for us to see. So now the ideal thing is that you add those sources together, then in the process of screening, there could be studies that were repeated, meaning you found it in Scopus, you found it in Taylor and Francis, you found it in Sage. So in doing this, since they are repeated, remember when you are crawling from each of the databases, you have their number, the total in each. But by the time you bring them together, those the articles that are repeated in 3 different databases, you will have to remove them. Those are duplicates. We call it deduplication. So you deduplicate it and you move forward to the next stage, which is the full screen of the full screening of the articles that are remaining. I beg your pardon. The title. After duplication, title and abstract screening is the next. So you screen the title, you screen the you screen the title, you screen the abstract. Once you are able to do that, it will come down to a particular number. Now you still go further again. You remember that now you see that out of 555 articles, 33 were duplicates, they were removed. Now we have 522 articles remaining. That 522 articles remaining, they are the one that you are going to do the abstract and the title and abstract screening on. And after we have done that, we came to we removed 471 articles. Out of the 471 articles, having removed 471 articles from 522 articles, we were down to 51 articles. Okay? Now, when we were down to 51 articles, now we went further to do further screening. That is after we have looked at further characteristics using our inclusion and exclusion criteria. So having used the inclusion and exclusion criteria, we found out that 23 further articles were removed. Why? We were able to explain that some have wrong outcomes, some have wrong population, some are not in English. Okay, one was not in English. Then 8 were unable to have access to the full articles. Then there is one that is not empirical nor theoretical article. We removed it, and one did not focus on school leadership. Another one did not focus on emotional intelligence. 9 did not focus on emotional intelligence. We removed them. That is after we have done the full screening for 51. We realized that 23 did not align with what we want, so we removed them, and that brought us to 28. So this is how to go about screening at the screening stage, which we broadly look at in this slide. That is, the first step is to do title and abstract screening, and we move from title and abstract screening to phase 2, which is full text screening. So when you are done with full text screening, you can now apply, while you are doing full screening, then your inclusion and exclusion criteria apply, and you will be documenting, why did I remove this? Why did I remove that? So as we have just displayed from that article. So what are the best practices? The best practices when you are doing your screening is to make sure that minimum of 2 people review the article, and if there are conflicts, the third person will be added, as they cannot come in to look at those articles where the 2 reviewers or 3 reviewers could not come to term. So they will have to look at it and say, okay, it's like an arbitration now. So they will have to look at it, okay, with a third eye. Whatever that person says will be the final. So whether it will be included or not included. And before I continue, let me quickly show something. I said it the other time that you can go by your data screening two ways. You can do it manually, and you can use systems that have been built for that purpose, as you can see on the screen. Yeah, if you look at this now, you will see that on this screen we have the automated way of doing systematic review, where search is the first thing, then import, study selection, extraction, and quality assurance disagreement. This is the point I'm making. This is where we are going to. This disagreement simply means conflict. It means that two reviewers cannot agree on a particular study, whether it should be added or it should not be added. That is what we mean by conflict resolution. That is, two people should screen, the third reviewer should resolve that conflict. Then, pilot testing on sample studies, you can just pick some studies randomly and see if they represent or if they respond to your research question. That is, you just, for example, if you are down to 50 articles, you can pick 4 or 5 articles randomly and see if they speak to you, the research question you want to actually answer in the study, generally. And one of the best practices also is that every step on the way, including exclusion, up until the exclusion, and you will have to write the reason why you are excluding these studies. Then we can use screening software. Like we said earlier, systematic literature review is very, very is rigorous and time consuming, and because it's rigorous, that is why the responsibilities are shared between team members. Okay, we are 6 in number. Who is going to do the search? Who will do the search? And we will we should all agree on the search terms, the keyword that we want to use and the string we want to use. What database or how many databases are we searching? Everybody that will be settled, and everybody will be in the knowledge of that. So now when it is time to start the work, everybody will have their own responsibility. Who is going to, as we have on this screen, who is going to do what? So as you can see, the charter that we have on the screen detail all that. So who is going to search? What is the date range, inclusion, exclusion criteria, quality appraisal tool? Which one are we using? Are we using MMAT, JPI, CASP, ROBs, or AMSTER? Which one are we using? So everything will be detailed. So at that level, the work becomes simplified. So that is that about the screening. Now let's move to the next one. Examples of inclusion and inclusion criteria. The type of study you want to conduct is what will determine, your focus is what will determine, okay, who are we including, who are we not including? And it has to be to with the understanding of every team member. So these are just few examples. One, are we reviewing only peer-reviewed journals or journal articles? Are we only limiting ourselves to English language studies? If you are not from if you are from a country where English is your lingua franca, and that's the only language that you communicate with or write with, then English will be the most preferred. Okay? And if you want to combine different languages, so long you are proficient in that language and you are fluent, go ahead and include empirical studies. Are you including primary studies alone? For example, in systematic literature review, there are different types of reviews that you can have. Some require that you use only primary studies, that is empirical study, primary research. For example, if you want to do meta-analysis requires number. If what you want to, for example, let's say what you want to find out is what is the effect of so medication on patients, group of patients. It simply means that the studies that you want to use must be empirical, because there are parameters, we'll get there shortly, there are parameters that you will have to look for in those studies that you will have to include. Let's say you want to find out what is the effect. Please, like I usually say, use your feet as an example in your mind as I'm speaking. If you want to find out the effect of variable A on variable B, let me use that word now, and the studies that you would, and you want to do meta-analysis. Meta-analysis requires that the study you will include must be studies that were empirical, meaning data were collected and they were analyzed quantitatively and the results were presented in numbers. Because what you want to do has to do with meta-analysis. We're going to see it shortly also. So you have to be sure that, okay, are we using empirical study or not empirical study? There is another type of review that is called umbrella studies, umbrella review. Umbrella review is a type of systematic review that only include, umbrella review is the review of systematic literature review. That is review of review. That is just the word. Meaning you are not looking for studies that are either you don't need empirical studies, you don't need theoretical studies, you don't need conceptual studies. All the studies you need, they are all systematic literature review. So you want to review systematic review that have been reviewed. I hope this is clear. So that is one of the, so if you are writing that type of review that is called umbrella review, it simply means you don't need empirical studies. You don't need either quantitative, qualitative, conceptual, theoretical. You don't need them. So that would be part of your exclusion. Then specific population. What population are you looking at? So very important. Specific intervention or exposure, relevant outcomes measure, date range. These are all examples of that can form your inclusion criteria. They can form your exclusion criteria. It all depends on the focus of your work and what you want to study. What about exclusion criteria? Some of the exclusion criteria might be, okay, we don't want to include reviews in this study. If you are doing meta-analysis, you cannot include reviews. You cannot include editorials. You cannot include commentaries. All right? Then you can say, okay, we don't want studies that are not in English language. And you can say, okay, studies that are carried out in animals are not needed. For example, if you want to test the effect of certain medication on human being, studies that have the same result or that focus on the same study rather, you cannot use them, you cannot include them in the study. So you will say, okay, animal studies are not included. Those who are in animal science, health sciences, will understand what we are talking about. Insufficient data report. If the study does not have sufficient data, we cannot include it. As a matter of fact, one of the things that are what's it called now? One of the quality checks that we are going to look at when doing systematic review also talks about methodology, that is, how rigorous is the methodology, are the data sufficient enough to draw the conclusion that this author draws. If not, then the rule of insufficient data, applies here. So that's another one. Wrong study design. If the study is not well designed, if the design is wrong, then such could be excluded. What about duplicate publication? If you have publications that are duplicated, somebody was asking the other time about replication of studies. Fine, it is possible that somebody replicates a study, but in this case, you may choose not to use the replica, meaning you are only concerned with the primary study. So all these criteria need to be discussed, need to be trashed out, need to be established before the screening begins. Let's go to the next one. Sorry, just a minute. So, unscreening and gray literature. Unscreening and gray literature is a way of searching for literatures, possible literature, because sometimes we have to give a benefit of doubt that, okay, if what I'm searching for cannot be found in the databases that I searched, then let me try another source where I believe I can have access to such information. For example, if you are writing on, say, health, you can go to WHO website to have more insight into your study, or get recent information, or use any of the databases that we shared with you the other time where statistics about studies are shared. So now it simply means that your type of systematic review and how you want to report, how you want to synthesize, will determine whether you will use hand screening outside those databases. If you note, I keep making reference to meta-analysis. You cannot do that in meta-analysis because you need studies that fit exactly into the protocol that you have developed. So going to World Health Organization website to go and gather data and reference, to go and excavate materials now will not serve the purpose of inclusion. Rather, it can be useful in general discussion. You can use it to complement or to contradict whatever your finding is finally. But when it comes to the articles that you are going to analyze, you cannot use World Bank documents for that purpose. But if you are writing another type, if your synthesis is different from meta-analysis, if you are doing thematic analysis or thematic reporting or thematic synthesis, you can use it. So you will only report that outside the databases that were searched, we carried out hand searching and we found some great literatures which were included. Name that database or the website or the organization where that data is drawn from. Very, very important. We have explained what great literature is. Great literatures are literature that are not they are not peer reviewed, and of course they are not published in any journal. They can be commercial journals. They can be just gray are just the word on peer reviewed settles everything. It could be government review, it could be conference abstract. The next one is, after you have done this, remember, you don't just come up and develop a flow diagram, the PRISMA flow diagram. It must be that, excuse me please, I beg your pardon, just a moment please. Sorry for that. So the flow diagram is an explanation of how you came about the number of articles that you finally included and reviewed in that study. This, what we have on the screen, I have explained it twice. So, and I believe it should be clear by now. You start by the total number of articles you crawl from different databases, name those databases and put the number of articles you got from there. If you search great sources indicate and add them together that these are the number of articles that you have, and you move from there to remove duplicates. How many articles did you duplicate? Screen, how many did you screen out? Based on what criteria did you screen them? And eventually you will come up to the number of studies that were included. This is very, very important. You will see the diagram. In most cases, they are always reflected in this form. Let's look at it. Okay, if you want to have access to this information, as in if you want to have access to this these materials, let me go to, just a minute. Let me go to PRISMA. PRISMA, we can visit PRISMA website, and we will see how all of these fit together. Okay, just go to prisma-statement.org. So if you click on, these are the diagram. This is the diagram, for example. If I click on flow diagram, you see how, okay, you see how it looks like. Trying to open this now. Okay, this is the tab. So on their website, this is an example. This is how it looks like on their website. So this is the source from which we draw. So basically, this is how the process flow. The way it's being represented here is a little bit different, but the process are the same, meaning identification, screening, and included. So forget about this, the extreme side. All you need are those that are in boxes in white. But what the boxes you have on the right, which are in gray color, what they try to tell, they do a further explanation of, you know, what those that are in the white, how you are able to identify them, how many records, as how many websites, how were you able to retrieve them, what are the explanation. That's what it does. But basically, you can go to this website to get more information. If I move to this part now, let me go to the when you get to the website, you will see that you can have their checklist downloaded, expanded checklist, the flow diagram, the statement paper, explanation and elaboration paper on how to go about SLR if you are adopting the PRISMA framework. So all this information are contained in this website. Let's go back to our slide. So more information can be gotten from that website on how to write, to write systematic review, and not only that, how to present your PRISMA flow diagram. I want to open the mic for a moment in case there are questions. Please, is there any question up to this point? All right. Any question, please? All right, Dr. Nancy. Hello, Dr. Nancy. We cannot hear you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, good evening. We can hear you. Please go ahead. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, we lost him. All right. Please, am I audible? If I'm audible, let me know because maybe they are not hearing. Those people are not hearing me. Please, if you can hear me, can you indicate that you can hear me?
Yes, doctor, you are audible. I can hear you loud and clear.
All right.
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much. I think it's peculiar to them. Thank you. So let's continue. All right. So, that is that about PRISMA flow diagram. If you are writing SLR and you are adopting PRISMA, this diagram is required. It is not bargainable. Okay? Then the next thing is quality assurance. How do you appraise those studies that you have included? Remember, we have done title screening, we have done title and abstract screening, we have done full study screening, and now you are down to 50 articles, hypothetically speaking. And there is a need for you to still screen those articles because the strength of your findings lies in the quality of those articles. The strength of your finding lies in the quality of those articles. So those articles that you have identified now that, okay, these are suitable for my study. Can we rely on them? How did they arrive at their studies? At their conclusion. What is their methodology? What is their methodology? Is the methodology they adopted, is it appropriate? Is there an alignment between the research question and the results? I'm just giving basic, overview of the function of the appraisal tools, and there are a number of them. The type of study you want to carry out is what will determine what type of quality appraisal tool you want to use. So the quality appraisal tool helps us to assess methodological rigor of those studies. It helps us to identify potential source of bias. It enables us to evaluate reliability of their findings. Did they just concoct a methodology session and they just came up with a result? Is their methodology session detailed enough that we can rely on it, that of a truth, this guy did this job? So it enables us to know if the interpretation of their result is actually right. So the type of study you want to do, as I've just mentioned, will determine what quality appraisal tool to be adopted. Let's start with MMAT, Mixed Method Appraisal Tool. Now, it is applicable if the studies that you want to include in that study, in your SLR, are mixed method, qualitative or quantitative study. And it is so versatile because it covers, it captures different study designs. All right. We also have JBI tool. This covers all study designs. It's comprehensive in nature. Then we have CASP. It also covers a number of types of study that you may want to carry out, types of SLR you want to carry out. The number of studies you want to include in your SLR, I beg your pardon. And it could be randomized control trials, qualitative or cohort study, even quantitative. I'm going to show us, in a moment. And of course, it's user-friendly. The checklists are user-friendly. We also have ROB2, and it's majorly for randomized control trial, and of course, gold standard for RCT, meaning that is just a major one that is always in use. And if you want to do systematic literature review, AMSTAR 2, that is version 2, as you have ROB2, we have AMSTAR 2, is for evaluating or appraising systematic review. So it simply means that if you want to do an umbrella review now, AMSTAR will be your best bet for reviewing systematic review studies that you want to include. So does that mean I have to use everything in my study? No. Your study type, your SLR type will determine what you are expected to use, the tool you will use, the appraisal tool you will use. You can use just one. You can combine as many as you want. It depends. Let's quickly look at this tool one after the other, or permit me to open them just in a moment. I'm trying to open those studies, those tools one after the other. I'm almost there. Okay. And let us also know that you can carry out a systematic review and meta-analysis together. What I'm trying to say is this. You can do a systematic review that has thematic way of synthesis, of synthesizing the articles that you have gathered or that you have included, and you can as well carry out a meta-analysis of the same studies. So it simply means that your primary goal would be that in this systematic review, I want to express the results in text form. But not only in text form. You know, if you say text form now, it simply means you are doing thematic analysis or thematic reporting. But you can also say, particularly, any field, let me not just be specific about a field, but it's majorly for those in health sciences. Systematic review is identified with set sciences long as in that's where it emanated from. But because those in social sciences and other fields, the phenomenon they study is quite different in most cases from what is being studied in health sciences. That is why the idea of SPIDER came up. Remember, we talked about PICO and SPIDER. PICO small o and PICO capital O. So now what I'm driving at is this. It is possible for you to combine systematic review, that your synthesis will be in form of text, with meta-analysis. What that means is that, for example, let's say somebody wants to look at, let's look at this study. Let me just share this, for example. I just want to explain this before we continue, so that we will know what brought us to this place in the actual fact is appraisal tools. But in order for us to have a broad view, so that we will know that in a single study, you can combine 2 or 3 appraisal tools The type of study design you are doing, the type of study design will determine what type of appraisal tool you are going to use. I just hope I'm not confusing us. So if you are doing systematic review alone, you can use one appraisal tool. Maybe I should reframe it that way. If you are doing systematic review alone without meta-analysis, you can use one appraisal tool. But when you want to combine systematic review with meta-analysis, you would have to use another appraisal tool, meaning that you are combining two appraisal tools in one singular study. Let's look at this study that we have online. Now, this study talks about effect of care bundles for acute kidney injury, a systematic review and meta-analysis. You can see it. So now it is clear that this is not only a systematic review. If you go down this study, let me scroll down very fast before we go back to our slide. This is their PRISMA, and let's look at somewhere down. All right, look at this. This is another quality assessment tool. So now you can see they say Nestle Ottawa scale were used to assess risk of bias for the cohorts. Okay, risk of bias is also another way of ascertaining quality in the study. Let's go down and see another one. This is another one for bias purpose. This is, for mitigating bias. Okay, it is another way of ascertaining quality. This is another one, and let's go down and see. Okay, those are the two. There is a study I saw that combined MAAT. Did I not open it? There is a study I saw, like that. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that you can combine, if you are doing meta-analysis and you are doing you are combining systematic review, you can combine the two together. Where is this stuff? Is it in this study or another study? Okay. So what I'm trying to explain in essence is that you can use two types of quality assurance tools to ascertain the quality of a study. Let's go back to this study. Now we have MAAT. Let me go to MAAT. Just a minute. Okay, this is MAAT. MAAT looks like this. MAAT is mixed method appraisal tool, and if you want to make use of it, it simply means that you will get yourself familiar with this scale. That is, if you are doing a qualitative study or quantitative study, if that's what you want to include in your study and you want to screen them, these are the questions that you need to ask. Okay, let's look at the very first one. Screening question for all types. It says, at the methodological quality criteria level, are there clear research questions in that study that you included? Out of the 50 now, do the collected data allow to address the research question? You will answer yes or no. If you can't tell, you do the same, or you make a comment if there is a need for that. Okay? If you want to do qualitative study, the point is, the first question says, is the qualitative approach appropriate to answer the research question? The second one says, are the qualitative data collection method adequate to address the research question? 3, are the findings adequately derived from the data? Number 4, is the interpretation of results sufficiently substantiated by data? Is there coherence between qualitative data source, collection, analysis, and interpretation? These are the questions that you need to ask for you to include that study. If your study is quantitative randomized control trial, the following question also apply. and on and on. So if the study you are carrying out, requires that you include both qualitative and quantitative study, quantitative descriptive study, mixed method study, the very first column tells the type of question that you need to ask. That it identifies your study, and against those studies are the type of question you will ask to know if these studies are worthy of inclusion. That about how to use it. And of course, these are explanations on how to use, the interpretation of those, what we have up, how to make use of them, and in which of these studies do they apply, how do they apply to each of these studies. This is very, very important. So this will be made available to everyone, or you can also go to their website and download it. All right, let's look at another one. This is ROB2. Just a minute. In order for you to carry out risk of bias. Risk of bias is another form of quality assurance for those who are doing meta-analysis. If you want to do meta-synthesis, this tool is useful. It is just the way we used the previous one, which is MMAT, read through them and find out, okay, let me see, go through the information that serves as the checklist with which you will gauge those studies you want to include, and it is in 7 stages, as in those questions that you want to ask to ascertain the quality. They are in 7 domains. The number 1 is risk of bias due to co-funding, risk of bias in classification of intervention, risk of bias in selection of participants into the study. Let me increase this. Then risk of bias due to deviation from intended intervention, risk of bias due to missing data, risk of bias arising from measurement of the outcome, risk of bias in selection of the reported results. So these are the 7 domains where question will be asked on each of the article that you finally included. It is then you can say, okay, this article is worth including. But there are some tools that we say, even at this level, all you just have to do is to report whether the risk or the appraiser is low, is medium, or high. If you are using other tools like MMAT, what you will have is you eventually have to report for each study whether the quality is high, the quality is low, or is medium. And that is the summation. Some of the tools, they will require that you assign numbers to every stage. You can see now, these are just further explanation of those 7 stages. At planning stage, list co-funding factors. So you will have to get familiar with this. Like I said, internalize those scales. When you internalize them, you will now start using them to benchmark each of the studies. Some of the tools will require that you assign numbers. Like maybe between 1 and 2, they will say, okay, if the range is between 1 and 2, is low. If it's between 3 and 5, medium, 7 and above, high, meaning the score, the aggregate score you will have for each of the tools. Let me see if I have another one. Which one is this? Just a moment. Okay, this is MMA, this mixed method appraisal tool. This is bias tools. Let me open this. not this, not this. Okay, let me use this for example. I'm sharing this screen now. Now, when we get to, just a minute. Okay, quality assessment tool. Let me open this and make it a bit wide. AMSTAR, for example, it requires that you do the aggregate of the numbers that each of those studies score. What I'm trying to say is this. Let's look at this point. It says the studies were categorized as medium, as high, medium, or low quality based on the respective score. For studies evaluated using MMAT, which consists of 5 criteria, the quality categorization is high quality for score of between 4 to 5, medium quality for a score of 3, and low quality for a score between 0 and 2. Let's go back to MMAT. You will find out that it has about 5 questions. Where is it? Sorry, just 1 minute. Sorry, I'm trying to locate that file. Okay, MMAT. So, looking at MMAT, which is one of the tools, why it is not opening wide? Okay. You see that when you want to ask those questions, some of those questions have 5, some of those, if it's qualitative, it's quantitative, basically they have 5 questions that you need to ask. Now, when you ask each of these questions, you can add number to them, meaning that for if the article does not score, or if your response to the first question is no, you put 0. If it is yes for the next one, you put 1. By the time you add the aggregate together, you aggregate them, you are going to have 5. If the article score 5, then you put 5. It means the quality is high. If it is not, then you can group them based on what I've just read. Between 0 and 2 is low, between 3 and 4 medium, then 5 high, just that way. So by the time you are reporting in your study, you would have, you will use that to judge the quality of the study, because at the end of the day, there will be a place for you to state the quality of each of the articles. You can say medium, high, low. You may report the numbers, you may not report the numbers. It all depends. So that is how we use quality appraisal tool. Another tool that can be used is JBI tool. If you go to the internet now, and let me just switch to the internet and look for JBI tool. JBI. For systematic appraisal. On this website, you will see the tool, and this is the checklist for systematic review and research synthesis. So now, as you can see, these are the checklists: the reviewer's name, the date, the authors, the year, and the record number. Let's say you have 50 articles. You put, oh, I'm not sharing this yet, sorry. Please, are you seeing this? I just search for this article. Sorry, I just search for this tool, which is called JBI tool for quality appraiser. If you Google it, just type JBI quality appraiser for systematic review on your laptop right now, and you will see that it will come up with this. Let me go back to this tab. This is the tab where I came from. I just Google it, and now I have this. I clicked on it. I have this. I clicked on it, and it takes me to the appraiser tool itself. And here is the appraiser tool. So, and the appraiser tool has checklists that you can use to measure the study that you are working on. I mean, the article that you want to review. So when you answer these questions, at the end of the day, you will have a remark as to whether to include it or not to include it. So these are the questions. Is the review question clearly and explicitly stated? Yes, no, unclear, not applicable. Were the inclusion criteria appropriate for the review question? So, was the search strategy appropriate? So, you answer these questions and eventually you come up with a decision. The overall appraiser, is it to include it or to exclude it or to seek for further information about it? So, you make comments, and the reason for inclusion, for exclusion, if you are excluding it, there must be a reason. Remember, it has to be reported in the PRISMA flow diagram. So, I just want us to take time to go through this. You can say, just search any of this one on the internet. You will readily have access to those tools for appraiser. And of course, as you can see on the screen, the type of study that we use them for is what we have at the middle. You can as well Google it and find out, is this tool appropriate for my study? You would know, by reason of that. So let's not waste much time on that. We have talked about this, what is it called now? ROB, which is one of the things we have here, ROB2, risk of bias tool for randomized control trial. And these are some of the questions that, you will have to ask to ascertain the quality of the article you want to include. And also mixed method, as a mixed method appraiser tool. These are the types of studies that that they are suitable for, or that is suitable for qualitative research, quantitative randomized control trial, quantitative randomized studies, quantitative descriptive studies, mixed method studies, and all that. So these are we have explained some of the things we have on the screen, because I've taken us to that to see where you can say yes, no, can't tell, and how you can assign numbers to them to arrive at number eventually. The same thing, another one is, let me look at this study, this one now. CASP's Critical Appraisal Skill Program. They have appraiser tool for all types of study that you can think of. Systematic review. Oh my God. I'm not sharing the screen. I'm sorry. I've moved away from that screen. We left this place. My apology. We left this place, and I said that you can Google any of these tools and you will see them free of charge. You can download them, and I move from there to say, because each of them will later explain them one after the other, but because we have touched on them and we have visited them live, that is why I said there is no need belaboring the issue again, because we have talked about ROBs and we have seen the type of questions that were asked under ROB2, and the same thing goes for MMAT. We have seen example of studies that it is suitable for, and we've also seen what the responses are in terms of yes or no or can't tell. And I feel further explain that you can assign 1 to correct answer, and eventually you will have 5 in all. And when you have 5, it simply means that if a study score 4 out of 5, it is still considered high. So if it is between 0 and 2, it is considered low. So no, and on and on and on. I was talking about CASP. CASP is another tool which we have just seen. And I said when you get to their website, you will see a lot of tools. Let's quickly go to the website and see how it looks like. CASP. Okay. Now this is CASP website. If you just type on your system CASP appraiser checklist, this is what it will link you to this website. In their own, they have a lot of checklists for different types of study. As you can see on the screen, they have for systematic review with metadata analysis of observational studies, systematic review with metadata of randomized control trial, and all that, up until cross-sectional studies, clinical studies, economic evaluation checklist for those who are in economics or who are in business studies or management studies, case control trial, diagnostic cohort, qualitative studies, systematic review. They are all covered. They all have them. So just click on it, any of your choice, and scroll down. Once you click on it, you will see those tools. If you want it in Word, click on Word. If you want it in PDF, click on PDF. It's going to show. So now when it's displayed, you can now begin to answer those questions one after the other. Are the result of the review valid? That's section A. Did the review address, okay, it has opened another tab for me. Did the review address a clearly focused question? Then you move for down, just keep answering the question based on what you can find in the study. Remember, the studies that you are reviewing, you are checking the quality at this point, they are studies that you are finally selected to review. And that is why you have to report their quality. You have to report on their qualities. So that is that about that. So basically, what we are trying to talk about is after screening. So that, let me just bring our mind back to where we are coming from, so that it won't be as if all we have been doing, what exactly are we doing? Let me open the mic. So that somebody will not, it's possible for somebody to say, what exactly are we doing that we are moving from one slide to the other, one tool to the other? I don't know, for me to be sure that I'm not speaking to myself. Can somebody tell us what we have done in the couple of minutes now in terms of quality appraisal? What are we trying to do? Can somebody tell us?
We are looking at the tools for evaluating the tools we can use to appraise the quality of the paper we are looking at.
Thank you so much. Please, is it correct? Are we on the same page?
Yes.
Please, let's speak to the mic. Are we on the same page? Are we all on the same page?
Yes, doctor.
All right, thank you so much. So, thank you so much. I'm happy to hear that. What we are trying to do is to make sure that the studies that we have fully read, shortlisted, included, there is a need for us to report about their qualities. And those tools are what we are going to use to report on, in that session. Systematic review cannot be, any systematic review you see that does not have that session, even though it is published, is a wishy-washy systematic review. So, So, now let's move forward to the next thing. We've talked about that extensively. So, having done this, when you are done with quality assurance, quality appraiser, the next thing is to start extracting data. When you want to extract data, there are some information that are needed. the number one is the author, the year, the country, what type of study design, what is the sample size, and possibly the characteristics for those. Your research question is what will determine to a very good extent how detailed your extraction will be. Or even if not detailed, let me just put it this way, the type of information that you want to extract. But basically there are some, even regardless of the focus of your study, it is expected of you to state the author's name, the year, the country, the type of design, possibly typo size, the type of study, what type of study, what type of design. If your study borders on intervention or exposure, it is necessary to state that. Let me say this. Okay, there is a study that I'm trying to share with us now. All right, let's look at this study, for example. This study talks about a systematic review and meta-analysis of the effect of community use of oral nutritional supplements on clinical outcomes. What they want to find out in this study is we have some patients who are receiving treatment from the hospitals, but they also complement their treatment with nutritional supplements. What is the effect? Those who are combining nutritional supplements with their standard treatment, is there any difference? So now you see that in the process of them extracting the data, some of the information they extracted speak to the question they want to answer. So some of the data they extracted was the study in terms of the name of the author, the country, the population, the sample size, the nutritional status, the age, then the oral, what's it called now? Let me see the title now. Talk about ONS, just flip my mind now. That's the name. Oral nutritional supplement, thank you. Oral nutritional supplement, that is what they want to, that's what they want to, the oral nutritional supplement that was prescribed. These are the specifications. The protein involved, these are the specifications, the things that are involved in that supplement. The duration of the oral nutritional supplement that was taken, you can see that the duration was stated, where the ONS was consumed. Is it before or after? Is there at the community level? So all this information, because this information are peculiar, they will help them to answer the question. They extracted those information. So what am I trying to say in essence is that the type of your research question will determine the type of information you extract. So now let's look at this. This table is showing us a different data set. So basically, the information that you extract is a function of the question you want to answer. So this study now, for example, I think about 44 studies are included in this study, and right there they began to answer question or to ask question. It's a kind of they have the control group and they have the other group that use the ONS, the oral nutritional supplements. So when they get to this point now, in each of these studies, remember this study is both systematic review and meta-analysis. So they highlighted first the study. What they mean by the study here now, some people will call it authors, but they just call it studies. And they started by saying, okay, the first group from this point to this point, which is the intervention group, those that use ONS, these are the information they want to find out about them. What type of, in what format is the oral supplement they were using? Is it liquid? Is it powder? The compliance. What level of compliance did this study report? Remember, these studies were studies that were quantitative. And they move forward to say, okay, number of complications. Those people that were using those supplements in the oral nutritional supplement group, which is the intervention group, what amount of complication do we have? The form, you can see now that it means that in each of those studies, they extracted the format, that's in the form that supplement takes. Is it a powder? Is it liquid? Is it whatever? They took note of that, extracted it. They extracted the compliance. At what rate were they complying with the use of it? They extracted information about the number of complications that arise as a result of the use of those supplements. So then they move forward to say, they move to the control group. What is the format? What is the level of compliance, and not the rest of them? Then outcome that were reported. Complication, what type of complication do we have? And they also report types of complication that were reported and all that. So basically, why am I saying this? I'm saying this to state that the type of question you want to answer will determine the amount of data you will extract from the article that you have included. So that we don't just look at what is on the screen and see it as this is the final. No, it is not the final. All right. Your study design will determine what you extract. Data extraction and what you extract still continue. The result, what is the primary result, what is the secondary result, the effect size, the confidence interval, the statistical significance, and qualitative team and codes. Now, there is a mix of results here. When you say primary result, we can say it's applicable in all fields. Secondary result, you can say it's applicable in all seats. But when it comes to effect size, confidence interval, that will suggest to you that this person tends towards meta-analysis, meaning that there's something that is a need for, as this person is likely to be concerned with the effect size of those studies, the confidence interval, and other parameters, other statistical results that we may have. The statistical significance is another one of them, the p-value. But when you now talk about qualitative team, it simply means that it's most likely this person is also doing a systematic review that is not necessarily a meta-analysis. But we have just seen an example. The previous study we just show us now, that study is a combination of systematic review and meta-analysis. It simply means that all of the results parameters that we have on this screen apply in that particular study. So that is what that means. Then another thing, of course, risk of bias of each of the studies, their limitations and funding, if necessary. You can include funding. For example, if your study has to do with maybe you are doing a transnational, a cross-national study, you want to find out how much of funding is government devoting or marking for the purpose of this, kind of study that I'm looking at. That is why funding comes in that place. So we want to look in details a little bit more about how to synthesize and when do you synthesize, what exactly are you looking at? You remember in our previous class, I talked about different types of synthesis. Synthesis simply means now you have 50 articles, still talking hypothetically. You cannot be reporting those articles one after the other. You will have to aggregate, combine, compress their results in a way that tell singular coherent story. So in doing that, you need to adopt a means or a method of data synthesis. and report. So, if you are doing a meta-analysis as one of the way of synthesizing, it simply means you are considering quantitative studies, because what you want to look at is you want to aggregate results from 50 studies, hypothetically speaking, and you want to get the average of what that study is saying for you to come up to say, this is it. For example, if study study 1 have a report of its own, study 2 is likely to have something that is a little bit different in terms of their results. But remember, one thing is very important. If you look at the first statement under meta-analysis on this screen, what you will see is when to use. When you are to use meta-analysis is when there is homogeneity in quantitative study. What does that mean? It simply means those studies, those 50 studies, still talking hypothetically, they are looking at the same thing. Their focus is the same. What they examine is the same. That is what we talk about homogeneity. And of course, there is another thing we're going to see below. The level of homogeneity, you also have to report on that. What I mean is this. No two study can be 100% identical. I'm sorry to say that. Can be 100% identical. So if they are not, if you have 50 studies, there will be a level of standard deviation, level of deviation, a little bit, though they are looking at the same thing. So the level of homogeneity have to be reported. That is, to what degree are they different? To what degree? So basically, you use meta-analysis when those studies are homogeneous and they have to be quantitative study because you are reporting figure. If study A said if their result is, if the level of significance of effect or whatever is moderate, if study B is highly significant, if study C is less significant, at the end of the day, you will have to aggregate everything to tell a story. That's just that about that. Then outputs. You would have to have a pool effect estimate. That is, it is an estimate. The essence, the output you are looking at meta-analysis is that you have pulled every effect together, all the effects, the effects that those studies report, estimate of them. And in most cases, forest plot is often used. We're going to see, let me see if I can show us what forest plot is all about, or how it looks like. Forest plot is the visualization. I mean, is the analysis type that show the visualization, or that helps you to visualize the results and what each study reports. Let me see. I'm trying to see if I can open one now. Those who are in social sciences and other fields, you may not be, I can't even say you shouldn't be bothered, because if you're studying in every of these fields, we have that type of study that we're talking about, that you can carry out meta-analysis. It's possible, because so long you have results that are represented, particularly when you are making comparison now, you can as well come up with this type of study. Just a minute, please. All right, this is a forest plot. Okay, this is how a forest plot is presented in a study. So it aggregates different parameters of interest to you. Of course, majorly the effect size in each of the study would have to be reported. The confidence interval, the chi-square, as you can see here, the confidence interval, the chi-square, the I raised to power 2 talks about the homogeneity. The level of significance is reported with the PI. Sorry, please. I'm just trying to make this thing a little bit bigger. So, those who are in health sciences in particular will understand what I'm talking about, or those who have read articles about meta-analysis will understand. You can say the homogeneity is stated, the effect size, the average effect size, the chi-square, everything were reported. That is just to give is to paint a picture of transparency and quality of all the articles that were gathered, so that when somebody is reading, the person will know, okay, these studies, by when you look at the homogeneity, you can say, okay, they are closely related. If you look at the effect size, you can tell that, okay, what is the effect size like? So the average of everything will have to be calculated. This is more of data analysis issue now, but I just want to bring it to our mind. The mic is open. That is why we have this. So, so the study the whole thing will have to be analyzed as if the person is doing, what is it called? An empirical study that is just one article. That is how those results you gather from every of the study, when you are extracting, they will eventually be analyzed. And when they are analyzed, you will see that study, you see a forest plot of this side, of this type, as one of the outputs of your data analysis. And that is what we are going to report based on. Remember, what you see on the screen is the aggregate of the number of articles that were collected, their effect size, their findings, the homogeneities and everything. So they reported both the meta-analysis aspect and also the systematic review aspect. So if you go to other part of the study, you will see that there were places, all these are reports, or they are forest reports. And if you go to other parts of the study, there was I think there's a place they talk about, they reported thematically, except it is not this study. Okay. You will see studies, okay. Now, this is a thematic analysis. Thematic analysis or finding, thematic analysis that form part of the systematic review in this study, because the first thing they did was to report thematically. Okay, just a minute. Now this is the result session. From this result session, you will find out that they started with thematic reports. Which were expressed in words, in table, which is also applicable in typical systematic literature review, using table and text to report. But when they got to somewhere down there, they started reporting. Up until this point, they were still reporting using the thematic analysis type of report, of synthesis or reporting, anyone. Okay? Now, at this level, they began to, the study started the presentation of the results using the meta-analysis type of report. That's what I'm just trying to say. But those who are in other fields, if your work does not have anything to do with this, you can settle for thematic analysis. And what would that do for you? The thematic synthesis. What you have to do is you will look at the aggregate of, you will synthesize, if I can use that word. You have 50 articles. Remember, I showed us the other time the Excel sheet. That Excel sheet is what you will use to extract your data. You are extracting the data based on your research question. Let's have that at the back of our mind. Any data you are extracting must be to respond to your research question. So there is no there is no rigid way of designing that Excel sheet. So, for example, just a minute. When we were designing our study, we knew the type of question we want to ask. So, as a result of that, we were informed ahead of time the type of data that we are going to extract. The same thing goes for you, and that is why question comes first in systematic review. Question comes after the title. The next thing is question. So I'm trying to open something now. Just 1 minute, please. Have I closed this? I'm not sure. Okay, let me open. I just want to open a study in business study. Business study. Okay, those in business studies. This study is about a systematic review on family business capabilities. And let's just look at the patterns. Is this network or something? Wow. I wonder, it's like there's an issue here. I beg your pardon. This table is not, this article is not well presented in the format I would have loved it to display. But let me see if I can open. Oh, this thing should be in Microsoft. Oh, it's in Word. I'm sorry. Okay. Let me quickly do this. All right, I think it should be better now. All right, so now we have the way this study is presented. It's a function of the type of research question that was asked initially. Come on, sorry. This stuff is intruding into my space. So basically what I'm trying to say is the type of data that you extract will be a function of the question that you ask. Okay? Let's look at the research question for this study. Let's see if we can get one. Just a minute. I'm trying to fish out the research question. But even if I can't fish it out now because of time and trying to catch up with things, you can be sure that this type of data that was extracted here is a function of what the question is saying. You will see that the authors extracted the article, what they call article now should be the title, the author's type of, what do they represent by OC? Okay, ordinary capacity, type of ordinary capacity, then drivers, theory in use, the method, the sample size, the family focus, the country of research, and the key findings. These are the things that concern them. So without overflogging this issue, what you extract is a function of your research question, as in QED. Narrative synthesis is also the type of synthesis that we have been talking about all along, meaning that you are using words. In this case, you make use of narrative synthesis. You make use of narrative synthesis when you want to, compress or synthesize studies that are heterogeneous. Heterogeneous simply means that they have different, they are not necessarily focusing on as focused as the studies you include in meta-analysis. The topic can be the same, the focus can be the same, but they have different ways of inquiry. It could be, you can combine qualitative, quantitative, systematic review, and just any type of studies, you can combine them. Studies that use different methods, you can combine them. That is when narrative synthesis shines. So in that case, you would have to develop codes and come up with a team, and you start writing. So that is that about that, just as you will write your normal literature review. But in this case, you are still drawing your data from studies that are related. Another way is, we've talked about, thematic synthesis. Thematic synthesis is a form of, is very close to narrative synthesis. Now, in thematic synthesis, what you do is you can use it for both qualitative mixed method study, or if you are combining both quantitative, qualitative, also you can also use it for different types of research approach. And what you are doing is you are drawing your data from those studies, but now you have built a team from the commonalities that each of those studies have. You have 50 articles, but their conclusion, though, varies to some extent, but even with that variation, you will still see that because you included them because they spoke to the focus of your work, it is most likely that there will be commonalities among their findings and conclusion. And when you get there, you will now begin to extract at the code level snippets of studies that are related to one another. You begin to group them, that's coding, group them. You can end up grouping them into 10. The moment you are through with that level, out of those 10, meaning out of 50 articles now, you've grouped their findings into 10. Now you want to still go further because having 10 teams might be, a little bit broad. So what you want to do is you can now begin to regroup them again. So you may eventually have 10 teams. And when you have 5 teams, but those 5 teams, those previously identified 10 teams can subsume under a major team. So you can group 2 teams together and give them a title, and they become sub-team under the major team. That is how thematic analysis work. But when we talk about realistic synthesis or realistic analysis, it simply means that this works, they may not be necessarily related. For example, if a comprehensive intervention is carried out, maybe a policy was rolled out, and it cut across maybe education policy, for example. It cut across tertiary institution, basic education, and secondary education. The same policy covers all. Now, if you want to do a study that will require the use of realist synthesis, you will want to find out this policy. The studies you have gathered, they are 50, and they all speak to this policy at different levels of education. Now you want to start writing. It simply means if you are using realist synthesis, even though the intervention, which is the policy now, that affects all school levels, it cut across all school levels, but the manifestation, the implementation, the outcome varies across those levels. So in this case now, you want to find out what actually works for whom in what circumstance does it work, or in what, and the framework is always context, mechanism, outcome, configuration, meaning that in this context, how did this mechanism of which is the policy, how does it work in the higher institutional context, in the basic education, and at the middle level? So this is how it works basically. And this slide should have come earlier. My apology for that. It should have come earlier for meta-analysis. You see, I've spoken to some of the things we have there when I was explaining meta-analysis. That is, meta-analysis has a component that aggregates different study effects and, either odd ratio or whatever, or, it aggregates everything and give us a visual display of it, in an aggregated form. And the heterogeneity is also denominated with I square, which is how related, what is the level of variation between them, and how these what we have, their benchmark, whether it is low, the low heterogeneity simply means that they are not, if you are doing meta-analysis, simply means that those studies are not very, they are not so related. I mean, they are in heterogeneity, meaning that they are not, the degree of closeness or similarity is not that much. And we have moderate, we have high heterogeneity, and all that. So, yeah. We have spoken to all of this when I was talking how to go about your coding and how to come about a team and synthesis. Also, we have also talked about this. That is, when you are synthesizing using Realist Synthesis, you are working on something that are not, that the reality and the manifestation differ across context. So in that case, you are doing a kind of context, mechanism, outcome. How does this thing operate in this context, and what is the outcome? That is the type of synthesis that you are doing at that level. And of course, we have, I've covered some of these things in my explanation. So this brings us to the end of this class, and these are some of the resources that we can make use of. We have mentioned a number of them, like the MMAT, CASP, and all that. I'm going to upload this to the system, to the dashboard, so that we can have access to it and download the information that we need. And not only that, the PRISMA checklist is also important for us to work with. I have uploaded it also previously. Please, let's take out time to make out time to download those information and use it to our advantage. At this level, I think we should call it a day at this level now. Oh, sorry, I will have to stop at this level so that we can ask questions and call it a day. Systematic review. This is just an introduction to systematic review. If you want to write systematic review, this class will be a good start for you, meaning that the information we have shared should be a good start for you by the time you start studying. If we have the time, or if time permits, maybe we can make some articles available that further speak about how to write systematic review, because we have to sit down, study it, and with this information, by the time you start reading it, it will not become difficult for you. But please, just allow us some time. We'll upload articles that specifically talk about how to go about systematic review in detail, so that you can read and adapt it when you are writing your own. And about the groupings that we have done, we will make it available again on the platform. On the WhatsApp group. We have uploaded it on that platform. If you want to join any of the groups, the challenge we have now is how people can identify themselves. And maybe what will happen is this: we'll make the list available on WhatsApp group. So wherever you see your name, identify with whoever is in that group, and possibly you can connect with one another or create a group through which you can work. From the information we have, from the grouping we have, I want to see if I can bring up that file now. From that particular groupings, people can start with identifying with each other. Identify each other, then start talking about what topic are we going to work on. That will be the topic definition will be the first thing. Then you can now start talking about, okay, this is it. We can now start talking about the responsibility. If people want to work on it together, if you belong to a group, let's look at a group randomly. Those who are in environmental sciences, we have Ochu Onyeke in environmental science, additional Kadri, Dr. Adebite, Rhoda Titilope, health sciences. So if I'm here, environmental health sciences, the next thing is what type of study do you want to do? Is this a randomized control? Is it a systematic review purely, or we want to do meta-analysis? You put that here with your question, and you move forward to the chapter. Who is responsible for what? So, for example, now you start with the goal in 1 or 2 sentences. We want to write a systematic literature review. You move from there to talk about what are we adopting, what are we framing our research question with? Is it PICO or SPIDER? We talked about that in previous class. What is the target journal that we want to publish? You put the name of the journal here. And what database are we going to search? You settle for its database. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3. It depends. Then what date range are we looking at? Are we looking at some so-so year, 2010 to 2020? Inclusion criteria, we will define the inclusion criteria here. Exclusion criteria, we'll define it here. Then quality appraisal tool, which one are we adopting? Are we doing systematic review alone, through which you can use MMAT or MMAT, I beg your pardon, or CASP, because CASP has tools for any form of review you want to do. MMAT also cover that. Are you doing, in form of synthesis? How do you want to synthesize our study? Are we doing meta-analysis? Are we doing narrative? Are we doing thematic? Are we doing realistic form of synthesis? That is why we are reporting. Then who is going to be good? The coordinator. Who is going to do the search? Who is going to be the screener? 2 people minimum. Then quality assurance. Who is going to lead the quality assurance team? Then data extraction lead. Who is going to lead the data extraction lead? Number 1, number 2 person. Cadence. How do we meet? How often? Are we going to create a group that we're going to do WhatsApp call or Teams call or whatever call through which we're going to meet at interval? Then the milestone from protocol to sec to screening to extraction to synthesis and the writing of the drafts. How are we going to go about it? The next thing is authorship. How are we going to order our authorship? Whose name comes first and whose name follows? Then what is the date of submission that you are targeting? So this is how I expect us, or we expect us, to go about this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how far we are able to go. If you have questions, this is a beautiful place to ask questions. Thank you so much. Any question? The mic is open.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I want to cause an appeal on the systematic literature review.
Okay.
My background is marketing or business, so I did like to join in a group there where my colleagues are, so that we ride on together.
Okay. We see that a number of people did not indicate their discipline the last time we came up with that grouping, but we are going to do the final analysis. The final grouping maybe before Wednesday, so that people can know where they belong to. But in the meantime, please put your name in the group again and your discipline, so that we can assign you to a group. All right, sir.
Good evening, doctor.
Good evening, ma.
Please, mine is appeal. I want to appeal to you. I entered the class late. So if you can help us by dropping the lecture on our platform, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We'll drop the video on the platform for you to access.
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome, ma'am. Any other question?
Hello, Doc. Thank you for today. I learned a lot.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
My appeal again to request is what you mentioned on Monday. One of the challenges noticed about researchers that our major challenge is how to use the search engines.
Yes.
Is there any way you can incorporate that in one of the classes? I'm pleading because know that.
Go ahead, please.
So I don't know how you can keep it in, just like you dealt with this SLR, and everybody is now, their eyes is opening to it. Even me, I feel the empirical studies, but I now see reasons why I should go for SLR now.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So I'm just trying to request if you can incorporate that so that we'll be familiar with these search engines.
All right, ma'am. We'll take note of that and see how we can incorporate it in the subsequent classes.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Good day, sir.
Good evening, sir. Please, let's raise up our hands so that we can take it one after the other. We are listening, sir. Good evening, sir. We are listening.
Thank you for today's class.
You're welcome,
I really
sir.
appreciate your effort.
Thank you, sir.
I want to ask a question regarding the PRISMA flow
Okay.
diagram. There is a place where you mention issue of duplicates. I want that area you will further to be explained.
All right. What I okay. When you are at the point of searching for literatures, you would find out that if you are pulling from more than one database, you are most likely going to have articles that appear. Let's say you have 3, like in our case now, we identified 555 articles, and from 4 different sources. Those 4 different sources, there were articles that were present in more than one of those databases. Let me see if I can share my screen. So when you have such case, meaning that you go to, for certain, you are going to be searching those databases one after the other. So in the process of searching for those articles one after the other from the different databases, it is most likely that an article that you found on database A, you will find it again in that database B. So by the time you want to start the overall inclusion, you cannot include that article twice. You will have to delete one. You will have to report rather that total number of articles were present or were found on 2 databases. So we remove duplicate, meaning that instead of it being 557, for example, now we have a duplicate that was removed. In our case, it was 33 articles. 33 articles were found in duplicate databases. So you will have to report that so that there will be transparency. I don't know if my point is clear. Whenever you have an article that is found on 2 databases, that is a duplicate, you will have to remove it.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome,
I understand now.
All right. And I also want to say something at this point. And the point is, I don't want to sound as if we are trying to milk people by saying they should pay to make use of our platform for systematic review. No. The knowledge you have gotten, if you read a bit further, everybody should be able to attempt systematic review at this level, regardless of platform or no platform. But what I'm saying in essence is that on this platform now, any moment from now, if you remember, even before we started this training at all, somebody asked question about systematic literature review, and I said it is a different training on its own altogether. In fact, it can take as much as 4 weeks or 3 weeks. So we have it in the pipeline also that there will be a standalone training on its own, of which what you are seeing on the screen is meant for. Because at the end of the day, for example, now let me just go to somewhere. Let me look at something. Let's look at this, for example. I've imported some articles into this, and eventually you will see that if I go to PRISMA, for example, if I say PRISMA and I say generate an update, it's going to generate a PRISMA diagram for me. I can say export. If I export it now, it's going to give me a PRISMA diagram. Can you see the information that are needed for me to include in that place has been generated for me based on the articles that I've included? But everything is still in the pipeline. The synthesis on how to synthesize those things, everything is going AI now. But like we have affirmed in the beginning of this study, of this training, we want to play down a little bit on AI so that people can understand and master this writing of a thing. If you don't know it and you are using AI, it becomes a problem. But we are still looking at it towards the end of this training. Even if it is going to be 30 minutes or 1 hour, we are going to look at how you can incorporate AI in your writing that will make your work fast and easy. But basically, let us get the master the tool of the trade. But eventually, we will still allude to it, even if it is going to be 1 hour. So that is just that about that. Dr. Benjamin Abumirigo Asa.
Good evening, Doc.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much for the insightful lecture.
Thank you.
My first question is, you talk of reference in the PRISMA flow diagram.
Yes.
What is it? Is it that a work that is similar to what you are going to do, and do you include it or you exclude it?
Reference.
The second question.
I didn't get the first question. I didn't get the first question.
Yes, the first question is, you talk of reference.
Reference.
Yes, please.
Okay.
May I know whether you have to include that reference or not? What is it? Then the second question is, in the systematic literature review, after you have extracted, identify your articles, you did the screening. Do you seek for expert view on the field to also triangulate your work, or you go straight to do the analysis?
You don't ask for...
And then my last one is an appeal. The other time you open the top journal for us to access the articles, but I wasn't able to, because I tried twice and they said I've reached the limit.
All right.
And which means that it locked me out. So I'm not able to get in it to match what I'm doing with the articles that, or the journal that I will be intend publishing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Please, let me start from the last question, the last request about journals. Please, I will request that you speak to us directly on Saturday. I mean, during the day. We want to ensure that we handle those cases we want to handle it on case by case, issues. That is the approach that we want to adopt now. So please, if you have issue with it, reach out to us on Saturday during the day, maybe around 12 o'clock or thereabout, before the class starts, maybe 5 hours away from the training in the evening. Reach out to us. We will attend to that. And the second thing is the issue of whether you should, after you have extracted your data, do you need to consult an expert on the field? You don't need to consult any experts. All you need to do is report exactly what is the outcome of the studies that you have aggregated. So synthesize them, and when you synthesize them, report it the way it is. Then there is a section also, that after you have synthesized your results, you can also have a discussion session. It is only in the discussion session that you can now mention studies that speak to that area. And as a matter of fact, if the study you are carrying out, you have extracted a lot of articles on it, it is within those articles you'll be using to back up your discussion. So there may not be need for you to go out of the articles you have extracted to make citations. But if there is a need for it and you find it's necessary, why not? You can go ahead and, but make sure that in the presentation of results session, you don't bring in any external article or any external reference. It is only in the discussion session that you can now begin to bring in external reference. That is that about that. The first one is about references. You talk about reference. When I alluded to reference, I was talking about reference managers, that you can have reference managers to when you are before you start your title and abstract screening, you can import your articles into reference manager, and I mentioned in the name of a few of them, so you can export it to them. That will particularly those that will give you the opportunity of, let me see if I have one. I think I have a few of them on my system. Reference, okay. What's the name of this stuff? I have Mendeley, I have Zotero, I have one. That one is I think I so much love it. What's the name now?
EndNotes.
Sorry?
EndNote.
I have EndNotes. I have Zotero. I have EndNote. Okay, Zotero. Yeah, the Zotero. So if it's about to update now, I've not used it for a while. So we can use Zotero. What they enable you to do is that, they enable you to view your studies. Let me see if I can share this screen. So they enable you to view your study. You look at the abstracts, and from there you can make decision on what you want to do. Whether they are just a minute. Let me see if I can share this screen. Stop sharing. Share again. And then window. Yeah. So can you see my screen right now? This is Zotero. Zotero will enable you to see, if you open, these are what you have on the the first column. They are just different categories of articles. The middle is where you have the name of those articles and their authors. And on the right pane, you have just an eye view of that article where you have the title and you also have the abstract. So with this, I can easily determine if this article should be included or it should not be included. That's what I mean by reference when I alluded to reference. I hope that is clear.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, Dr. Ajala.
Good, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Well, I just want to commend you for this great work you have done.
Thank you so much, sir.
Actually, if some or most of us are able to be under this teaching during our postgraduate studies, things will have changed better. But with this level now and the training, I believe that we can perform better.
Thank you so
Well,
much, sir.
what are published articles that are not really in this Q1 to Q4? But with this, we should be able to do something, not only for this training alone, but after, at the end of the training, we should be able to do something. My own question is that what do I call it? This literature, systematic literature, whatever.
Okay.
Yes. Only in some group, there's only one person. How do we go about it?
Okay.
Are we going? What?
I suggest. Are you done with? Are you through with your question?
Yes, sir.
What I will suggest for such a person is the person should look for the closest field or group and identify with them.
Okay.
That's the best way to go about it. The person should just look for the closest group and identify with that group.
But my
Hello? Oh, we're not hearing you. I think we lost him. He's no longer audible. All right. So, yeah. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear him anymore. All right. Please, any other person, as we draw the curtain.
Yes, Doc.
Okay.
Yes. My last question is, if you are doing narrative synthesis,
Yes.
and then you have thematic synthesis, and then you have thematized the discussion sections,
Okay.
and some of the sections are having bearings on theories. Will you bring the theories on, or you don't relate it to the theories?
Excuse me. What you need to do in
My
that.
last one is.
Okay.
No, sorry. And then the last one, this one is the training has actually opened my eyes and strengthened me on the basic tools on research. And I've already submitted my PhD thesis for external review. But I've noticed that what you have taken us through, I've noticed some few things that I need to incorporate, or if I had it, I would have reviewed.
Oh.
May I have to call back the thesis to incorporate those things, or do the review before if there is a need for me to incorporate them? Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Let me start with the last question. I will advise that you don't do that, because if you do that, it will elongate your time of graduation. So, whether you feel you have done the right thing, or there are things that you still need to do, no matter the level of your perfection, if I can put it that way, after examining the thesis, it is expected that it will still be given back to you for some corrections. So no matter what, comment will still be made on it. So wait until that comment has been made by the examiner. Then you can now go ahead and incorporate the things you have learned. I think that would be the best approach. I don't know if I can see. I hope that is clear to you. Wait until you get a feedback. Then use the knowledge you have to boost it the more. Then the first question, please remind me.
The first question relating the themes to theories.
Okay. Now, when we talk about themes, and theories. For you to make use of theory as a team, it must have been that your study borders on theory. That is, if you want to find out if what you want to do is to examine studies that use that theory. So it simply means your studies you included, they all talk about that theory. So if they talk about that theory, maybe you want to look at what field are you? What is your field?
Development finance.
Come again?
Development finance.
Okay. If what you want to look at, for example, has to do with resource-based, what is it called now? Resource-based model. If you want to look at resource-based model, you want to find out about studies that focus on resource-based. What is the importance of resource-based, or is there any correlation between resource-based or resource-based model and productivity, organizational productivity? So you want to find out that the theories that support the influence of availability of results on productivity. You want to find out if studies that use that particular model, if they all agree that organizations that have enough resources perform much more than those that don't have enough resources. If that's what you want to look at, it simply means that the articles you are going to gather would have to be articles that speak to that theory or to that model. So by the time you get to where you want to start discussing your results, you will start picking the principles of that theory or model one after the other, and you'll be relating it how each of those studies contribute or allude or diverge or contradict one another. That is how you can thematize them. You pick the study, you pick them one after the other, or based on your research question. Of course, you would have crafted your research question in a way that speaks to each of the principles of that model or theory you are talking about. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, thank you everyone for coming to today's class. I wish you a happy night rest. See you on Wednesday, and good night from this side.
Good night, too, sir.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Okay.
No.